Let's now go to our correspondent, Zaina Khoda. She joins me from the Lebanese capital, Beirut. Zaina, I understand that you have now reached the location where that strike took place. Now, we have been hearing that Hezbollah top commander Fuad Shukr has reportedly survived a strike that Israel said was targeting him. What more can you tell us?
Well, yes, we are in the southern suburbs of Beirut, just a few meters from that building that was hit in the strike. We are not able to move from our location. I cannot show you what is happening because there is a lot of chaos. And as you can imagine, the situation is quite tense. Now, Hezbollah sources saying that Fuad Shukr has survived this assassination attempt. Earlier, the Israeli army claimed responsibility for this strike, saying that they targeted one of Hezbollah's top commanders, and that their operation was a success, and it is now over. Now, statements being made either by the Israeli army or the media, the messaging is that this was their promised response, the response to the rocket attack on Saturday in the town of Majd al-Shams that killed civilians, an attack that Israel blamed on Hezbollah, an attack Hezbollah denied responsibility for. So the message from Israel is that this is over. This was our promised response. Now, what will Hezbollah do? The very fact that there are reports that this high-ranking commander has survived could mean that there could be a different response. It would be a different situation, for example, if he was killed. Now, this was a military target. Yes, we are in Beirut. This is the southern suburbs of Beirut. I'm not sure what you can see behind me, but this is a residential neighborhood, a densely populated neighborhood. And we're getting reports of at least one woman killed and a number of injuries. So while when we arrived, there were a lot of ambulances here, medics, and really a lot of chaos. So the dust needs to settle before we can give you all the details. But this was a military target, which means that Israel also trying to stay within the so-called rules of engagement, the unwritten rules of engagement of their ongoing confrontation with the Israeli military, with Hezbollah. And earlier today, Hezbollah, a high-ranking Hezbollah source told us that no matter what the strike, no matter if it's limited, the nature of the strike, the nature of Israel's response, it will be considered an act of aggression, and that Hezbollah will respond. So we are at a tipping point in this conflict. We still do not know the trajectory of this conflict, but like you mentioned, we're getting Hezbollah sources saying that this Hezbollah commander, a high-ranking Hezbollah commander, surviving this assassination attempt.
Zaina, you were earlier using the word targeted strike. Obviously, we're waiting to get more details about exactly what happened, perhaps what weapon was used. But can you perhaps describe what you're seeing around you? We saw a lot of debris on the streets earlier, obviously a great deal of panic. As you say, there have been multiple injuries, at least one other woman killed. What does it look like there? We were hearing from Ali Hashim earlier, our correspondent on the scene, that he was saying literally a building collapsed. What does the scene look like?
Well, that building is a few, not very far from where I am standing, but we are not able to show you that building right now. Yes, there's chaos in the streets. People are in the streets. A lot of security in the streets. A lot of panic. People are concerned, but there's also anger. And that's why there's so much tension, because there's anger. This is not the first time there has been a strike in the southern suburbs of Beirut. Just a few months ago, at the beginning of the year, we were here and we saw similar scenes, just like this one, when Israel was blamed for that strike, killing the Palestinian movement Hamas's number 2, Saleh al-Aruri. But it was a very targeted and precise strike. They hit one floor in a residential building. They killed him as well as a number of members of Hamas. And again, there was chaos in the street, ambulances, paramedics, security, forensic experts. So as we made our way to the southern suburbs of Beirut, there was a lot of traffic on the streets. People were concerned. They were trying to make their way home. Even as we entered the southern suburbs of Beirut, a lot of streets were closed. So it was really difficult getting here. This is a densely populated area. We are going to do our best to try to get closer, but we're just waiting for the tension. We can see if we are going to try to make our way. You can see some ambulances in the background. People were bracing for Israel's response. There was a lot of speculation. How will Israel respond? We heard Israeli officials say Hezbollah will pay a dear price. That is what the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said. We heard the Israeli Defense Minister say that Hezbollah crossed red lines. But Hezbollah too is just as defiant, and Hezbollah too is raising the stakes earlier today, saying that they will respond. Even if, for example, Israel decides to launch a ground offensive, Hezbollah is ready to confront that. And it's not just that, Hezbollah is ready to take the fight into Israel, to invade the Galilee. So Hezbollah, what they've been doing really in recent weeks and recent months is showcasing their capabilities. Hezbollah does not want an all-out war. And they've made that very, very clear. It's either through their actions, through their words. For them, this is about supporting Gaza. It is about supporting the Palestinian people. It is about bogging down divisions of the Israeli army in the north of the country to relieve pressure on Gaza. It's about displacing tens of thousands of Israelis from their homes in northern Israel to put pressure on the Israeli government. So that is Hezbollah's position. And Hezbollah has repeatedly said that they will halt firing into northern Israel once the war on Gaza ends. Now, without an end to the war on Gaza, it will be very difficult to find some sort of a diplomatic settlement or arrangement to the conflict between Hezbollah and Israel. Western nations have been trying to do that, but they cannot do that as long as the war on Gaza continues. So this is why this conflict, yes, it has been largely confined to the border areas. Yes, both sides in many ways sticking to the unwritten rules of engagement, focusing on military targets. Yes, civilians have been killed, but the focus of this war of attrition has been on military targets. But anything can go wrong. And this has been the concern. The concern is any miscalculation could spiral this conflict out of control. So now for Israel, according to the media and statements coming out of Israel, this is over. Now we have to wait to hear from Hezbollah.
Zainab, before I let you go, I do want to ask you about the security situation there. You mentioned a lot of security there on the streets amid all the chaos. I know you were also at the airport earlier in the last couple of days too. There have been a number of flights either cancelled or delayed. And we know that a number of foreign embassies are telling their nationals to get out of Beirut if they can. What is the security situation like there for Lebanese citizens and other people living in Beirut beyond the southern suburbs of Beirut?
Well, really, for the past 10 months, the war was confined to the border areas. Yes, there were strikes deeper inside the country, but mainly military targets. Life went on in the Lebanese capital and elsewhere. Expats were returning home for the summer, concerts. There were concerts, parties, people at the beach. So life, you didn't feel that there was war when you're in the Lebanese capital. Even when Israel started to threaten that they're going to let Hezbollah pay a heavy price, you didn't feel this panic in the streets. Yes, the Lebanese people are used to war. They're used to instability, but also many Lebanese felt that Israel was not ready and did not want a full-on war. And really, statements that are coming out of Israel in the past hour or so, whether it's the media or officials, they are saying, we do not want war. We do not want a regional war. So here, people believe that Israel is bogged down in the war on Gaza. Its army is tired, and taking on Hezbollah is not an easy decision. These two longtime enemies have fought many wars in the past, and they've reached a stalemate. In 2006, Israel said that their goal was to destroy Hezbollah. They didn't do that. Hezbollah is a much stronger force than it was in 2006. It's not just that, it's a political force along with its allies. It holds political power in this country. So it's not going to be an easy decision. Hezbollah has thousands of missiles. They can fire thousands of missiles a day. And what they have shown in recent weeks is that they are able to penetrate Israel's air defenses, either using armed drones. And Hezbollah is able to hurt the Israelis when they want to. Yes, sometimes we do report how rockets land in open areas, in open fields. But when they want to hit a target and cause casualties, to send a message to Israel, they're able to do that. And this afternoon, just a few hours ago, before this strike, an Israeli civilian was killed in a Hezbollah rocket attack. So Hezbollah has been sending messages of deterrence to the Israelis to not think about starting a war, because we are ready and capable of confronting you, even though this is not what we want. So it is a critical time, a tipping point in this conflict. How the course of this conflict, the future course of this conflict, it will be determined once the dust settles here. And we also cannot expect an immediate response from Hezbollah. That is not the way the organization works. It is an organization that studies carefully calibrates its attacks, and takes into account the consequences of its actions. So Hezbollah response may
5
not
words
happen in the coming
you
hours or
pronounced
even
wrong
in the
2
coming
years
days.
before your brain
Zainab
starts
Hoda,
shutting down.
our correspondent
Dementia
on
is
the
now
ground
known as type 3
in
diabetes.
that southern Beirut suburb where that strike took place just a couple of hours ago. Thank you very much, Zaina. Well, we can now bring in Sami Nader.